Howdy everybody, Andy Nolch here with another knowledge report, and today's one is all about exposing the anti-Scientology cult, ASC. Yes, this cult exists, and I don't like it because they criticize the church for doing certain things, and then they themselves do those certain things that the church does. For example, the church, when it deals in information about L. Ron Hubbard or Scientology, it's completely one-sided. You only hear the good information, and then I think that they might actually be making some stuff up, adding it in about Scientology and Hubbard to make it seem better than what it is. So they're being deceptive, right? And the anti-Scientology cult people, this group on the internet, I'm not going to say anonymous, like some of them were involved in the whole anonymous thing, but anonymous is separate because that was something that happened 7 years ago now, and that was people who were, that was just a whole group of people, and they weren't really the anti-Scientology people. They were, the anti-Scientology people joined anonymous and they sort of teamed up. But these anti-Scientology cult people, what they do is they just totally focus on the bad side of Scientology, right? And then they make some stuff up as well to make Scientology out to be worse than what it is. So it's just ridiculous. So it's like, this is why when I was a part of the church, I didn't wake up to the corruption in the church, because I had seen some of the anti-Scientology cult information, like the attacking information, that sort of stuff, but it was pretty ridiculous. Like, it was too extreme, and I could see how they were just low-toned and they were just being really, really negative about Scientology. So it discredited them, and I ignored what they were saying. I just thought, yeah, they must be low-toned, the church must be right, you know, like they're just SPs, just ignore them and stuff. But then I heard some stuff by some independent Scientologists, and talking about the church, saying how no, Scientology is good, but you know, the church is changing the writings and all that sort of stuff. And the penny suddenly dropped, and it was like, whoa, hold on. And I looked into it more, and I found out the truth about Scientology. So the problem here is just being scientific and being logical and looking at a problem, right, which is Scientology, the problem of Scientology, and weighing up the information and the facts. And the church isn't being scientific and is being biased, and the anti-Scientology cult people are being unscientific and biased. And it's good that people are starting to wake up to what's going on, and they're starting to see that the anti-Scientology cult people, the Scientology haters, are just Scientology haters, and that you can't really trust what they say. I remember when I first got into Scientology, and I'd seen some negative stuff on the internet, like on those news reports, those cheap sensationalistic news report things. And when I was involved with the church for a year, I then watched one of those news reports. There's a show called Today Tonight in Australia. I watched it again, and I was like, this is just ridiculous. Like, yes, okay, there was like a 12-year-old kid working at the org, but like, the way you're presenting the story is so shit and so over-exaggerated, and you're totally ignoring any of the good in Scientology. You're not legitimately explaining it, right? And so I was just like, well, this is just bullshit, this news report and stuff. And I've heard some other stuff about Today Tonight and those other news programs where they just, especially with Trump getting elected and stuff, and seeing how just screwed up the media is, I can now wake up to just how terrible the mainstream media is. And that's what's great about these videos that Mark Rathbun does, because he criticizes the media, because the media just hate Scientology, and they love getting on the hate Scientology bandwagon. It's all just about picking on Scientology and just like, yeah, let's do it. They'll never go, let's do a report about Scientology and like, let's see what happens when we investigate this story, or well, let's talk to this person, or it'll just be like, no, we're doing a story on Scientology, right? Which means it's going to be saying that Scientology is bad, only interviewing people who don't like Scientology and just totally one-sided. And it just makes a stupid, it's just stupid. And basically, so the whole Scientology hater people and all this sort of stuff, they're just tunnel vision in hating Scientology. And I mean, I don't mean to act like I'm some sort of genius or anything, but it's just like, if you think about it, me and the independents, we really can actually be scientific. We can actually look at both sides of the argument and weigh it up and come to a conclusion. And do you know what? And so the independents, right, who do this, I come to the conclusion that Scientology is overall better than it is bad, right? But there are people out there who don't conclude that, but you just don't hear about them. Maybe they tried independent Scientology, or maybe they just left the church and heard that they can do it outside the church, but they're just like, overall they probably thought it's bad and they probably just avoided it. But they're not the ones on these internet groups and stuff who are, you know, part of this anti-Scientology cult thing, who are arguing and blah 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 blah. They just keep to themselves and you never hear about them, right? But you only hear about these like Nazi ones who really hate Scientology, and I can list off their names. But maybe I don't know. I don't know if I really want to make enemies or anything. But they're just totally biased, you know. Like, you got to think of it this way. You're only going to really hear from the people who the church pissed off. The people who the church didn't really have a good or a bad experience, they don't bother arguing and hanging out on these websites. But the people on these, the anti-Scientology cult people, they're just like, just in there and just like obsessed with hating the church. And they're ignoring like fantastic philosophy and information that can help them and benefit them a lot. And that literally wakes people up to the matrix world that we live in. Like, it's epic. Like, I didn't realize. I really didn't know what I was getting into when I got into Scientology. I was just like, whoa. I had some depression and I wanted to feel better in that. And I wanted to improve and do anything to improve. And I just went on a journey that was just like, whoa. And the best analogy really is just like out of the Matrix, where like Neo takes the red pill and he wakes up to the truth. It's incredible. And I'm not saying it's all Scientology that did that to me, because I've tried plenty of other practices and done anything self-help. I love it. I just soak it all in. Anything to improve me is good. I think it's the meaning of life, to evolve and improve. It's just like the iPhone. Do they just leave the iPhone and let it slowly get worse with age? No. But who are all these people? All these anti-Scientology cult people, I don't really see them being into yoga and all that sort of stuff. And all these other beneficial things. They're just sitting there and slowly aging. So they're not being like the iPhone. They're not improving, evolving, and staying alive and getting better. They're just stuck in the past. They're staying the same and slowly aging and just hating on Scientology. The one person, Alan Stanfield, who was like, he was an anti-Scientology cult sort of person. He hated it. And then he changed his mind and was like, yeah, Scientology wasn't that bad, right? He was the dude who was getting into like other spirituality and evolving and changing all these sorts of things. So maybe that's how we need to cure these Scientology haters. They need to start getting into self-help. But someone like Chris Shelton will sit back and go, that's kooky. Oh, it's kooky. Oh, I'm Chris Shelton. Oh, it's kooky. It's not scientific. Oh. And it's just like, Chris Shelton, how about you really get into proper science? Not just like dumbed down Stone Age science that you're promoting and you're obsessed with. This science that's like stuck in like funding from governments and grants and corporations and just corrupted and just, whoa. Like, you should get into real science, Chris. Serious. Because real science is absolutely awesome. And part of real science is doing stuff like Scientology. It's really finding out the truth about the world. You know? Anyway, so I think I was saying how I got into Scientology and that. Anyway, so it's like, it is amazing. It's incredible to wake up and then to be able to walk around and just be able to be like, to just know so much more than the average person knows. To just be able to look into things and just go, oh, I can see what's going on here and understand this, understand that, not be all confused, not be like, oh, life is so hard, and all this sort of stuff. To just be like, to just be enlightened and to be woken up to the matrix world that we live in. Because literally, you've got a whole universe out there, like full of aliens and shit. And not that far from Earth, but it's all being hidden from us, right? I don't 100% believe that, but there's so much evidence talking about aliens. Anyway, but these anti-Scientology cult people are like, oh, aliens don't exist, and oh, you're just kooky, you think we live in a matrix, and blah, 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 blah. But it's just, there's so much evidence for it, right? So, I think earlier I was talking about the Going Clear thing and how Marty Rathbun was criticising Going Clear. And I just want to say, yeah, when I watched the movie, I was like, okay, that was an interesting movie, you know, well filmed. It had some interesting information about the negative side of Scientology, but I don't think one, like, pro-Scientology person was interviewed in that film. Like, I think they showed some clips of, like, John Travolta speaking, but it wasn't balanced and fair at all. And this is what I'm talking about. It was a classic mainstream media-made movie, the Going Clear thing. It's just like, we're making a movie, and this movie is going to be saying that Scientology is horrible, and that's it. We're not actually going to interview someone who does Scientology outside the church, or who does Scientology in the church. And we're not going to let them speak and legitimately counter any arguments and stuff. Like, it's just, you know, we're making a documentary and it's an attack piece. It was just, a Going Clear movie was just a pure attack piece. And I like how Marty Rathbun was exposing it. Because it was. And it's just like, you're not telling everyone, like, you know, it's just ridiculous to not have the good side. It's like, I saw this documentary. This is actually before I became anti-vaccine, right? But it's actually what woke me up to the truth about vaccines, because I saw this documentary that, because I didn't know, I heard like, oh, what's going on with this vaccine debate, and there was this documentary on TV, so I watched it, and of course it was on, like, we've got 2 government channels in Australia. We've actually got government channels that are just full of propaganda, right? Anyway, and each channel, of course, has like 4, each network has 4 channels, you know what I mean? Anyway, so it's called SBS, I think it was on SBS or ABC in Australia. And he was talking about vaccines, and they didn't interview anyone who was anti-vaccine. And because I was watching, and I was going, and this was before I even knew about the vaccine issue and all this stuff, and I was just like, whoa, that was weird. Like, I could see, I watched the whole documentary, and I could see that everything about it was so, like, pro-vaccine. It was just ignored. It just had one little thing where it mentioned, like it showed one person who'd been a side effect of a vaccine, and then they said that it's only 1 in 100,000 and it's really rare. And they said it, and that's why people don't like vaccines, because it was 1 in 100,000, and it was just, I was just like, whoa, this is just pure propaganda for the average person to brainwash them into taking their vaccines. And that's what woke me up to the truth about vaccines, because they're dodgy documentary. And why didn't they interview someone who was anti-vaccine? Because the anti-vaccine person would sit down and go, look, I have spoken to a lot of parents who straight after the vaccine the kid's been harmed, and it's not 1 in a million kids that are getting harmed by vaccines. The side effects are a lot more common than you think. And they can't handle that. They can't answer those, and it will screw up their documentary, right? So they don't interview anyone who's anti-vaccine. So the exact same thing happened with the Going Clear documentary and the book and that. It's just like totally like anti-Church of Scientology, and that's it. That's what we're going with, you know. And it's just, if someone's logical and scientific, you would have to watch and go, well, I wouldn't mind hearing from someone who's an actual active Scientologist and all the reasons why. But it's just like, you see how, you know, well it's filmed and how it's funded and how professional it is and all these sorts of things, and you think, how could you leave out a big fundamental flaw and not interview and give a proper chance to speak with someone who's pro-Scientology to counter some of these arguments that you're saying? And they might choose someone who's like the church spokesperson, who doesn't even know about the issue with Scientology, doesn't even really know because they're just closed off in their church, and all they have is these PR answers. So they say, what is Scientology? We believe in 8 dynamics, and they give some fucking sorry, I'm getting... they give some crappy answer that, like, the average person does not understand what the hell they're giving as an answer. Why don't you tell them the truth about Scientology? Why don't you just say what it is? It's a bunch of self-help courses that really improve someone. And if you want to say the funky definition of it, go ahead and say the funky definition of it. Say it. Say it wakes people up to the corrupted matrix that we live in. It snaps people out of that, literally almost like the movie, but it takes a few years, and then the person evolves and changes, and then they're just like this new person. Anyway, and you can talk about the whole alien thing as well. You can start bringing like funky stuff, you know, but like, just at least answer the question. So the anti-Scientology cult people just aren't scientific. And I want to say something as well, is they believe in wild ideas about Scientology in the church. So they go, Scientologists believe this, and can you believe there was David Miscavige who did this, and blah, blah, blah. Can you believe that, whoa, can you believe that Hubbard did this in 1942? And it's like, hey, that's all rumour. Where's the fact? Where's the proof? They're just anecdotal stories. You criticise me for telling anecdotal stories about UFOs, for saying anecdotal stories about how someone goes exterior, for saying anecdotal stories about past lives. Oh no, but it's okay to say it about Scientology. So see how they're so unscientific and unfair? It's just not right. You know what I mean? Like they just believe in, like, and in the Going Clear movie and in the books, it's got information that is wild and out there and challenging. But of course, someone like Chris Shelton will go, oh, that's okay, you know, I'll gobble that up, gobble, 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 I'll believe anything that doesn't like Scientology, I believe it, gobble, gobble, gobble. But, but like, if I sit down with someone and I say, hey, Chris, I'm serious. A lot of people are saying that they had these past life memories, and there's good evidence to back it up, and they're saying that they can leave their mind and like go into another room and see what's in the other room and then come back and report on it as a spirit, right? Chris, oh, that's unscientific, oh, it's unscientific, oh, it's ridiculous, oh, that's ridiculous, but Lawrence Wright, give me just all this funky information about like the church and Hubbard and just like this stuff back in the 70s and funky stuff. Oh, I'll believe that, I'll gobble that stuff up, you know what I mean? And it's just funky stuff. Like, or like the church was like attacking the IRS and were like harassing them, and the church was trying to find out who in the IRS had an affair on their wife. Ooh, stories, anecdote, blah, 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 blah. Hey, by the way, I actually believe those stories. A lot of them. Because I know how the world works. But the problem with you, anti-Scientology cult people and Chris Shelton and that, is that you'll say, oh, that's ridiculous, but then the stuff I say is ridiculous, but then anything that's attacking Scientology, it's like, oh, no, that's probably true, I'll gobble that up and I'll believe that. So it's just like, you're just so unscientific. My God. There's a reason I believe in exteriorization, because there's an overwhelming preponderance of evidence. That's why. You know what I mean? There's a reason I believe you can bend a spoon with your mind, because I've seen someone do it. Well, I've seen them move a spoon with their mind. I've seen it. I've personally been there. I filmed it, I watched it on film, played it over and over again, trying to see if he'd done anything dodgy. That's why I believe this stuff. And why can people read minds? Why can people move objects with their mind? There's so much more going on. That's why you should do Scientology, you should do other practices and look into these things and watch the Matrix movies and try and get the message they were trying to say in that movie. Because they were trying to expose the truth about life. Why do people hear voices in their head? Why? Look into these things. Try and find out. Don't just like criticize, oh, it's ridiculous. So I think I mentioned everything I want to mention, but it's just like, you know, the haters are going to hate. And I think there's a difference between exposing the corruption of an organisation and then being like unscientific and like attacking and hating and just being low-toned and you know, because apparently the anti-Scientology cult people started hating on Mark Rathbun when he stopped going along with their little group and their little rules and following what you have to do and sucking up to people and being like part of the scene and the whole anti-Scientology clique and like, yeah, you know, blah 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 blah. He didn't want to go with that because he's a bit rebellious. So he was probably like me, where he was saying, you know, the church is corrupt and doing this and this and this, but you know, like, hey, I've seen Scientology tech do fantastic things. Oh no, but not say that. Oh, Chris Shelton, better not mention that in any of my videos. Oh, be quiet, don't say that. Oh, it's a secret, keep it hidden. Oh, don't let anyone know that, like, it can, like, cure people of drug addictions. Oh, don't let anyone, don't let anyone know of, like, all those successes they had with marriage counselling. Oh, keep it hidden. No, Scientology is just bad. Just focus on the Office of Special Affairs that does, like, some slightly dodgy things to people who are trying to attack the church, and, like, it's hidden, and this secret part that goes on a little bit, and this little bad, small, corrupt side of it. Oh, focus on that. So anyway, I'm just having a bit of fun here, but it was just, I was happy. I was happy to see that the word's starting to get out and the Scientology haters are starting to wake up, because they didn't think they were haters. They thought, like, oh, I'm really good, I'm being a protester and I'm really trying to stop something bad. Like, they didn't realise that they were just hating on things too much. And this is a part of evolving and changing. You know, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. I've been wrong about heaps of things in the past before. You know, and like, you just got to wake up to it. You know, you got to wake up like, whoa, I was eating bad food. Like, whoa, I was going about things the wrong way. And there's nothing wrong with being wrong. It's part of life and fun and evolving. And people who have done grade 4, who've got up through the Scientology processing and completed grade 4, they tend to be very evolving sort of people that have opinions that change because they're not locked in a certain way. But a lot of these Scientology haters are like these hardcore atheists that just hate and like locked and trapped in this certain way. And they're ignoring the goodness of Scientology, you know. But I guess I understand how Scientology scares them, because it creates people that are tough, that are strong, that are dedicated, and that are a threat to them. Serious. Like, it creates people who are fighters, who have a spirit of life in them, and that aren't like these wimpy people that are just, you know what I mean? It creates, like, Greek warriors, you know what I mean? That scares them, because they're like, oh, I don't want people being stronger in my environment. Oh, I don't want people getting better than me. Oh, because I'm stuck being the same. Oh, it's scary. Like, this is what's going on mentally. And, like, it's going on subconsciously. They're not even aware of it. Because it scares them. They don't want dudes walking around who are, like, excellent at martial arts. Because it scares them, you know. They don't want people out there who are dedicated or strong, or like, this is my religion, I'm willing to promote it, and I want to help people in the world. It's just like, oh, scary big groups and stuff. And the last point I'm going to say is, and this is the biggest one of all, instead of wasting their time trying to pick on the church and finding out about the corruption of the church, like, I don't mind it because I find it fun. This is just, to me, is all a big game, you know. And I don't spend that much time on it or anything, but a lot of these anti-Scientology cult people don't have much more in their life, which is it's sad, really. They need to get some Scientology in them, basically, to improve. But there's so much more going on in this world. There's so much more excitement in this, and if you're an activist type of person and you don't like corruption and that, man, oh man, are there other huge things you can pick on. Huge. Just epically huge. But of course, you know, the media won't pay you to appear in something, you know what I mean? They'll ignore you because they're bought out by corporations and corrupt and all this sort of stuff. And you'll find that if you make videos about this, you'll get people attacking you on your videos. You know, but if you make something bagging Scientology because it's in fashion at the moment to be anti-religious, oh, it's great, all these people like your videos and all these people compliment it like, oh, great, and you get the occasional person like me who actually says a comment that's like, hey, you know, Scientology is actually pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, you're not willing, they're not even, like, it's easy to pick on Scientology, and I've never seen something be more bullied in my entire life than the topic of Scientology. And these Scientology haters and the anti-Scientology cult people are literally bullies. They're religious bullies. They're religiousists. Because the word racist, and there's like, what about a religionist? Like, they say bigot. I think religionist is better. They're religionists. It's terrible. You know what I mean? It's terrible. And because it's in fashion at the moment to not be racist or anything, if you say anything about race, it's, oh, sensitive, you can get into trouble. But you can just bag the shit out of religions. Like, you can just go up there as a stand-up comedian and pick on Christianity and say, blah, 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 blah. Oh, the Bible is stupid, huh? And it's just like, yeah, it's poorly written, it's badly translated, and it's just, you don't even understand what the hell it is about. The Bible is the story about a freaking alien coming to Earth and seeding human life here on Earth. Like, it's an epic story, and it's giving you secrets into what's going on in the world. It's amazing. Anyway, you know, they're just a bunch of bullies. And some people might go to me and go, Andy Nolch, you're like apologising for a cult, and you're being mean to me. I'm a victim and I got hurt by the church. And it's just like, hey dude, I'm sorry you got hurt by the church. And I've got a great way to solve that problem. Get into independent Scientology and start improving yourself. Or get into yoga. Or start eating raw foods. Or like, start doing Avatar. Or start reading the Bible and trying to understand it as a hobby. Start clearing words. Start improving yourself. That's good advice. But no, you'll just say, Andy Nolch is a hater and hates me, when I bloody well love you. I love everyone. It's just how it is. It's natural. It's how it's, I don't know, I just like people. And I'm talking to the anti-Scientology cult people to try and improve them. You know what I mean? I want you guys to improve. I don't want you guys being these like stubborn losers who are stuck in the past. I want you to move on and be doing new things, not care about the Church of Scientology. You know? Anyway, I do find your stuff interesting. I find all your hate stuff interesting. It's like watching a funky movie. Like, oh, this is interesting how much they hate. And it's entertaining, but it's ridiculous. And the bad thing about it is, you're giving Scientology such a horrific reputation with all your attacking and stuff, that when somebody just hears the word Scientology, they're like, oh, what the hell is going on? Like, oh, Scientology, what the hell? Instead of going, wow, what's that? You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's interesting, I haven't heard about it. Like, like, some people are scared off it. And I tell you what, you're also losing as well, because in the long run, the church will be here, the Scientology haters will give up, the Scientology lovers will continue, and I can already see it, especially with this whole anti-Scientology cult being exposed now. People are waking up to the truth about the world, and Scientology is becoming more popular. And these unusual practices and these spiritual things are becoming more popular with the internet exposing the truth. And in the long run, there will be a day when Scientology doesn't really have a bad reputation. You know? And it's not like, oh, I'm mentioning I'm a Scientologist. Or it's like, you know, someone walks into like some event and they see a Scientology booth and they're not like, oh, Scientology, you know? Anyway, so thanks for listening, and I'm sorry to let you guys know, you Scientology haters, you've lost.